Hi, I'm Evie and I'm 10.
And I'm Daniel, and I'm a systems engineer working for Synoptics.
What is systems engineering?
So systems engineering is where you make things faster, better and cheaper. So one example could be, say you've got a car or something. So if you want to have a car, for example, what speed do you want it to travel at? How many wheels is it going to have? Is it going to have doors or a roof or something? Is it going to be like a convertible or whatever? So once you've decided what kind of car you want, you'll come up with a design for that car. So you might do a drawing or something and then put it on the computer. You might, 3D print parts, make bits in a factory, and you'll start to make the car. And once you've made it, you need to do some testing to check whether it's safe for people to use and whether it's actually being built the way you wanted it. And then after you've done that, you'll sell the car to someone on the market, and then that car you can obviously use for a number of years, and then you'll need to give it like an MOT, to a bit of maintenance just to make sure it keeps running and it's still safe. And then once that car is not useful anymore, you'll get rid of it and it might go on a scrap heap or recycled or something.
What sort of things do you work on?
So in the past I've worked on rockets and submarines, but now I'm working on artificial intelligence.
What is artificial intelligence?
So artificial intelligence is like a brain in a human, but in a robot.
What do you enjoy most about your job?
So I enjoy a lot of things about my job. One thing I really enjoy is talking to lots of people about new things that I don't really understand, and then I learn about and I know more about engineering in general. But the most interesting thing I find is learning about rockets and making rockets and testing them. And my favourite bit about testing them is aerodynamics.
Isn't aerodynamics just how things fly?
Yeah, so aerodynamics is designing the rocket so it flies through the sky as well as you can make it to get into space.
What do you find most difficult about your job?
So I think the most difficult thing is when I'm designing something and I don't really understand what it is I'm working on. So sometimes I have to go away and teach myself new things just so I can learn about something I didn't really know before. I suppose another thing is the responsibility that you have of designing, say, a rocket or something that people are going to go into space in, and the fact that that rocket needs to be safe for someone to go up in, and that you're responsible for that. So it's a huge responsibility on your shoulders to make sure you get everything right first time.
When did you know you wanted to become an engineer?
Well, when I was little, I always wanted to be an astronaut and go into space. So when I got a bit older, I kind of realised that to be an astronaut, you have to be really lucky in like applying to the job and getting picked, because there's only like 10 or 20 people that go up into space each year. So I kind of thought it was the next best thing. Well, when I was little, I used to break things and take them apart and put them back together again just to see how they worked. And it only occurred to me that that was basically engineering, is basically problem solving and seeing how things work and designing new things. So I've always been interested in it, I just never knew it.
Looking back, what advice would you give 10-year-old Daniel?
So when I was 10, there's a lot of people telling me that I could or couldn't do things based on gender or ability to do things. So when I was little, I wasn't that great at maths and science, but I was really interested in it, and people were like, oh, you can't really be a scientist because you're not smart enough. Never listen to people that tell you that, because if you believe in something, you can do it.
What subjects did you study in university and school to become an engineer?
Okay, so at school, at secondary school, I really enjoyed science and maths. And to be an engineer, you really need to be good at maths. That's the main thing. Science-wise, it doesn't really matter. So normally you'd do physics secondary school to do a university degree in engineering. I never did it, but I was still okay doing an engineering degree. So my engineering degree was basically rocket science. So I got to build and test rockets as part of my degree, and it was the funnest thing I've ever done.
There are more women than men in the UK, but only 13% of engineers are women. What do you think could be done to encourage more girls to become engineers?
So I think it really starts from a young age, where children aren't really taught what engineering is and all the different kinds of engineer you can be. So I think part of it is engaging with children from, say, when they're 5 or 6 years old, and teaching them what an engineer means. So whether you're building and testing rockets or bridges or even like washing machines, and so there's lots of different things you can do with engineering. And then I think the second part is stereotypes, and really from a young age, children are sometimes told what they can and can't do by other children, or sometimes adults as well. Or they might watch a video online or on social media or YouTube, for example, and see certain jobs where they're portrayed as only certain genders can do that job, or you might have to have a certain level of ability or personality to work in that area. So I think it's a case of really telling children in general, boys and girls, that it doesn't matter whether you're a boy or a girl, you can do what you're interested in, and there's no barrier. If you're, say, a girl and you want to be an engineer, you're just as capable. And if anything, girls tend to be more creative and boys tend to be more process driven. So there are benefits of both genders working together, and we're missing a lot of girls in the workplace at the moment that could really help develop some of the next big things that we're working on.
Even at my school, like the boys, if they get beat by a girl, they'll like cry. But if they get beat by a boy, they'll just like forget about it.
Yeah, so I think that really resonates with what I experience in my job as well. Like there not being many girls in that, and the boys sometimes tend to stick together and follow what the boys' ideas are, and not always the girls. So I think really starting off with children at school, we can kind of mold children so that they don't really care whether a boy or a girl is doing something or they're better at something, because it's just simply not true.
When I was 5, you told me that rockets run off of shreddies and Weetabix. Obviously, I know that's not true now, but what do they really run off?
So obviously when you was 5, I had to try and think of a way to explain the rocket triangle to you, of how rockets actually flew into space. So we had the heat, which I told you was about, imagine you was running around the football pitch and it was really hot.
Yeah.
So that'd be the first bit. The second bit would be the air that you breathe when you breathe in and out. That'd be your oxygen. And then the last bit would be your fuel, or in this case, I said it would be shreddies and Weetabix, would be like the energy that you would have before you went running to give you the energy to run around. So that's why I said it then, but obviously now you know that it's oxygen, heat, and then the fuel, which would be shreddies and Weetabix. And those three things together would go bang and push the rocket into space and overcome gravity.